Hey, everybody, this is Brent from The Second Look. This evening, I have the pleasure of speaking with Clarke Phillips. Hello, Clarke.
Hi, Brent. How are you?
I'm doing great. Very excited to speak with you. I want to know everything about you and your work and kind of how you got to where you are today. I've watched two of your short films that I want to talk about in detail. But before we get there, we have to find out how you got to the point of making them in the first place. So we all have that superhero origin story of like how we were born into becoming a filmmaker. Well, I want to hear about yours. Where did this all start?
Sure. Growing up, I always liked fantasy and science fiction books. I was really big with the Hunger Games and Divergent and Harry Potter. And so I knew I wanted to tell a story. And I also liked a lot of anime, like animation. So I loved Avatar, The Last Airbender, and just like Disney films. So I knew I always wanted to tell stories. And for a while, I thought, oh, I want to write a book. And then one day it'll become a movie.
Mm.
And I was like, wait, why don't you just make movies if that's the thing you want to do? So I played competitive tennis throughout high school, and had I gone to a traditional college, I would have had a tennis scholarship. But I realized I wanted to do filmmaking and like really go into it. I hadn't taken any art courses really. Hadn't studied photography, and so I wanted to go. Like I had to go to college. It wasn't really an option for me not to go to college. And so I'm from North Carolina, and I kept thinking I had to leave North Carolina. I'm like, I gotta go to New York and I gotta get
Uh-huh.
out of here. I don't want to stay here. Someone told me about school, UNC School of the Arts, and I'm like, what? Like we have a film school here? Is it like a real film school? And I toured the campus and thought it was cool. And they used to have like posters of all the senior thesis films that were made. And I remember when I was touring it, like as a senior in high school, and thought, oh, like it'd be cool if I could make a senior thesis film and it go up there. So Sugar Brown, the film that I sent you, was my senior thesis film, and that film was funded by the school. I don't know if they still fund their projects the same way now because I graduated 3 years ago in 2022. But they provide you with, the crew is going to be your classmates and they have to crew for a grade also. And then you have access to all the cameras, and they gave us $6,000 for food or props, cost things like that
Okay.
that we would need to outsource. And it was shot all on campus because we were still coming up from COVID. So we had to find all the locations on campus to make it work. But
Yeah.
that's how we got started.
And okay, that's amazing. Is there a poster of Sugar Brown on the wall at school?
There used to be. It's gone now just because I don't go there anymore. And
Oh,
I
I
don't
see.
know if they still put posters up anymore. I think
Mm,
it's one of the things that they just stopped doing.
okay.
But it was up there for almost 2 years because they didn't take it down for a while. But I do have a poster I can send you.
Yeah, yeah. I want to see it. I mean, it was up. That's all that matters, right? Like you did it. You kind of manifested that and you made it happen, which is great. And I'm this is a compliment, but I'm actually surprised that you weren't into film or filmmaking per se until you started film school, because what I'm seeing is like really top level, like professional looking great work. So yeah, I think you've got some natural talent.
Thanks. Well, I mean, it was my senior thesis, so I spent like 4 years
Yeah.
studying. Like,
It's clear that yeah, you've spent some time on it, and it looks really great. Were you always like, how is the school setup? Are you on a director's track in that you're directing
yeah.
mostly?
Yeah, so the school has definitely changed a lot. Like during my time there, we had like three different deans because again, you're dealing with like a pandemic and everything else
Yeah.
happening. But so when I was there, it was everybody had a track they could go on. So your freshman year, you had to take every single class plus animation if you wanted to. So I did take an animation class my freshman year. And then you had the option of you had to do like your first and second choice your sophomore year. So it could be like you could do cinematography and producing or editing and directing. Like you would pick your first choice and then your second choice, kind of like a minor if you didn't get into your first choice.
I
And
see.
then at the end of sophomore year, you had to like get into your house. Think of like the Harry Potter sorting hat. Like you had to get into your house. And so my top choices were directing and producing. And then I got into directing. So my third and fourth year, those classes were all focused on
Mhm.
directing. And maybe I would take one liberal arts class. You had to take like one class per semester that just didn't have to do with your degree. So I took like a philosophy and physics class, but aside from that, and a history class too. But all my core blocks were film because it's a conservatory.
Right, right. It makes sense. Okay. Now, did you enjoy film school? Are you glad you went?
I am glad I went to film school.
Why is that?
It gave me a chance to make something and to collaborate with people who were at the same level and to build a community that I still use today. Even like on my bad days, like I can call and know that somebody knows what I'm trying to do,
Yeah.
because I think it's very hard when you graduate and you don't have that community, or
Yeah.
if you've never before film school, I didn't know anyone else who wanted to do film. And even like my high school, we didn't have a film program as part of the arts. So I would borrow the camera from the librarian, and he sort of had an intro to film class. But I was the only one who like really took it seriously and was like, I really
Mhm.
want to do this. No one else was really into it. So it's hard to create film when it's just you and you're the only one who cares as much as you do. But at film school, it's like, oh, you're surrounded by all these people and you're gonna learn from each other, and it's gonna push you in a way that you maybe haven't been pushed before if you're not in like an arts driven place. And you're gonna grow because you're gonna see what your classmates are bringing to school. Or like each week we'd have an assignment we had to direct. It could be shot on your iPhone, but you had to make something, and you could see how other people's styles beginning to influence you, how their favorite films are beginning to influence you, and also just being not just in film school, but in art conservatory. Like you have friends who are in music and dance, drama, design and production, like all these things, and that fuels you as
Yeah.
a creative
Right.
and puts you in an environment to create and to know like what to do. I had no idea how to make a film. Like I didn't know that I even wanted to direct because I didn't assume that was the case, because I figured, well, I'm not gonna say I want to direct because I don't really know
Mhm.
what that is. I was more into like writing and editing, so that's what I knew how to do.
Mhm.
And then after my second directing class, I'm like, oh, I like this, so I want to do this. And then so it helped me figure out that that's even something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the bug. That's a good point about film school being kind of a like it collects everybody who has an interest in film, wants to pursue it in some way. Maybe they don't like you don't know exactly which path to take or what exactly, your specialty might be or should be. And that, yeah, you start taking those classes and everyone kind of like filters and settles into their interests, what really gets them, because people like film, but they don't. Then they didn't like, oh, it's actually cinematography that I really like, or it's actually editing. And not everybody wants to be a director, and not everybody can be a good director because there's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of skills outside of anything technical that you have to be kind of good at. So it takes a certain personality type too. So why do you like directing over the other specialties?
It just comes naturally to me, and I enjoy working with actors and finding ways to push a scene or reimagine something or see it in a new way. Yeah, it's just what came naturally to me. I think film is like a language, and when it comes to just visual style and how things can unfold on the screen. And so after consuming a lot of movies or even just ads, just always having to consume things, you kind of just want to talk back.
Mm,
And that's what I enjoy doing. But I like the parts of it that are like not romanticized. Like I like to go through the shot list and talk with the DP and make the line script. And if I don't have someone to help me with storyboards or photo boards, the little stick figures.
Mhm.
And I just like the idea of taking something from, okay, I have an idea. Now I can write that. And now we can get people involved and actually create it, make it something that people can interact with, exist, and then go from there. So it's just, yeah, it's just what I
Yeah, yeah.
like to do.
That's great. I mean, that you have to like it, right? It's a tough job. You have to really be into it to not just to be a filmmaker, but to be a director. I feel like there's a lot going on for directors that people don't realize because you're the point person at every step of the way, you know? It's all on you. And I love that idea about communicating through a medium, having a conversation, a dialogue, like you're saying, like with what you're consuming. This idea of talking back, I love that. Um, and I think based on what I've seen in both your shorts that I've watched, there very much is a message that you're voting, that you are delivering. Where there's like a there's a social engagement, I guess, that you're using your stories to include. Can you talk more about that? Like more about your messages?
Sure. So I enjoy sci-fi films. Usually tell you I like sci-fi and period pieces, which are the two things they tell low budget and first time filmmakers not to do because like you what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Can afford these effects. Um I just kind of let the budget be the aesthetic. Like you don't have you can do a dystopian and you can kind of set it like a Black Mirror as an inspiration for you
Mhm.
can have a different world and just change the rules slightly. You don't have to have like flying cars to have the same effect. And that can make it a little more eerie when it's like, wait, this feels like it's our world already. Like, are we already there? But with Sugar Brown, before I came up with the concept for Sugar Brown and like ran it by the producer and co-writer, I had looked into it to doing a project uh, around the sterilization of Black women during the eugenics movement in the 1970s, like North Carolina. A lot of
Mhm.
people don't know about that, but it wasn't just Black women; it was other, mainly like Native American women, and then incarcerated women and people with disabilities, anyone who we deemed wasn't fit to, procreate. And so I thought that was interesting and I wanted to do a documentary on it, but I couldn't find anyone willing to speak. And I have done like documentaries before, but I'm very big on like not exploiting people or, making them feel like they have to speak if they don't want to. So I just
Mhm.
kind of put that to rest. But I'm always influenced by current and past events that are
Yeah.
happening, just how you can be influenced from like the books and music you listen to. So I've always liked sci-fi and I've seen things about, oh, like we're modifying humans and what will that look like when we can genetically engineer people, and it's like I don't know. And so we were doing this story and I'm like, well, what if instead, I think I was talking to one of them like, well, what if instead, like in this world, like you had to pay for like how like pretty like your offspring would be. I'm like, well, no, I don't. That's like tough to get into. Like, well, what if it was things that were subjective, but the state thought it was like objective? Like, oh, like if they look this way, then they will become this problem. They will be like this. So I think a lot about like Minority Report. That's just a film that I think about, but also a lot of like indie dramas that go into the
Mhm.
style of it. So
Yeah.
taking like a high concept sci-fi, but then shooting it like a indie drama and be like, this is what
Yeah.
it is. So that's just something. But yeah, a lot of my film started as like a what if, like Sweet Pea was more. I was just thinking, dang, we pay for everything except air. But honestly, at some point, like, what if we did? Like, what would the world look like if we did? But the main part of the world isn't just the concept of, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, but it's really centered around the characters and what that brings out from them. And sometimes
Mhm.
people are more willing to engage with that when it's not our reality yet, but they're willing to see how that affects them and then like apply it to today.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Um, I love what you're saying. Everything you just described, I got that. I felt that. I think the the very light touch of sci-fi, and or and it maybe sci-fi in, like you're saying, not just flying cars and spaceships, but the an alternate universe or an imagined future that might, the what if, that is at the base, at the core of sci-fi. You're asking a question, you're exploring that question, and yeah, in both cases, the topic, the subject matter, is very close. Like you're saying, it's almost, you're wondering, is this real? Like, or like, because you're brushing up against the actual events, the actual like questions, especially now, especially these days, so that it really feels like you get one foot in our world and one foot in this world, I think, and bridging that gap is very interesting. And yeah, I just love the idea of, you don't need a huge budget. You don't need special effects. You don't need world building, that costs a ton of money. All you have to do is these little tweaks that you did. So I'm just I'm kind of gushing now, but I want everybody who's watching to watch these films and pay attention to that, because you handled it really well.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Starting out, I was like, don't know how we're gonna pull this off. I'm gonna make it work, but it's gonna have to work.
Yeah. Um, what now? Do you have plans for these films? Like, do they go to festivals now? Like, what do you
Yeah,
do?
yeah. So Sugar Brown is done with this festival run.
Okay.
The highest awards that it received, it was recognized as a it received the Directors Guild Student Jury Award in 2022, and that was really just good to have, to be able to reference that. And then it received the Dreammaker Award and the Best Student Film Award at the Morehouse Human Rights Festival in Atlanta. That's where I lived for a bit after I graduated. So Sugar Brown, we've written the feature for it. We've written the feature. That is the proof of concepts. We have the pitch deck. We have the budget. We have different breakdowns, and we have the same co-writer. I'm working with the same co-writer. I'll direct it. We have a different producer just because the two producers that were on it, they're doing other things now and can't commit the same amount of time. And then we have the same editor, the lead will be the same. And then as we get funding and see what it looks like, then I can figure out like how to fit in like the previous cast we had. And
Mm,
then the DP and the production designer we're still working on. I can say the DP, he works as a colorist now in New York City
mm,
for the short. So we were gonna reach out to him once we had some funds to say,
yeah,
okay, do you want to be part of this or come down to North Carolina to shoot this? But we're really just trying to lock in the um the DP and then the production designer and go from there. But
that's great.
that's the plan.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about the proof of concept thing, because they do feel like they work really well as that as well, and that there are bigger stories or longer stories that are can easily be born out of both. So yeah, I think that's interesting. How are you, just for people also maybe in the same situation? How are you going about trying to get funds? Like, what are you doing there?
It's difficult. So we broke it down. We decided that we were gonna try to get our budget, like the minimum we think we could do it for is 100K, and like that means feed everybody. Even if we shoot it on an iPhone, but have lighting, lodging, all of that. So we were saying, okay, if we can get 40% in grant money, 25% crowdfunding, after that 30% investments, and then like 5% in just like friends and family of the key crew and like leads, then that would work. But that's how we're gonna do it. And then the grants, it doesn't all have to be grants. Like we've applied to Sundance fellowships. We've gotten rejected from a few of them, and that's okay. Like we've looked into, I'm trying to list all of them right now, but the I have applied to the Find Your People program, but for other reasons. I can send you a link to all the things that we've been looking into and applying for. But creative capital, like we don't even look at just things that are for film. We'll look at things that are just for independent artists, because that's what we are. Like I'm not signed. Nobody who's working on this film is signed to anything. And so really it's just been understanding that we just have to come up with the money. Like no one's coming to save us
Yep.
or do anything. And so it's really just trial and error. And if we don't get any of the grants, then thinking, okay, can we build an audience? Like that's why I started Cinema Sense. I started it anyway, but at least I put it on TikTok just to try to build an audience and to gain a following, to say, okay, like these are the people who are interested. We can already say we have an audience, so that when we release the film,
Yeah.
there are people who will go
Yeah.
and see it. But I would say like grants, fellowships, sponsorships, labs, incubator programs. That's what we're looking for to get most of our funding. And then we're just going from there. But we're waiting to hear back from grants because we started applying late December, early January. So we're starting to hear back from some now. And then we'll hear back from some more in like spring. But like anytime I see a grant or like a fellowship that I am eligible for, I save it. I write down like my calendar and I sit down and I apply, and then I'll send it to my producer like, hey, did I do my answers make sense? Are there any typos? Or I'll ask my co-writer like, did I should I add an extra word here or make that
Mhm.
smoother? And we'll just sit down and do it. But it's definitely difficult because like I mean, yeah, my day job right now is Panera Bread, and that was just because it was when I had to move back to North Carolina. It was one of the first jobs that like hired me, because so many jobs just didn't get back. Because I was like, "Why'd you go there?" I'm like, "Well, nowhere else was hiring or like responding." So I had to, like, while you're sitting down and doing the work for grants, fellowships, while you're going to festivals and taking meetings, you're not getting paid. So you're doing like all this like unpaid labor for the chance that you for the chance to get to, shoot a feature. But for a while, it seems like nothing's happening. I mean, things are happening, but it feels like not. Or like, I just got rejected earlier today for like one of the grants that I really wanted, because if I got that grant, we would have been set. But they were
Mm.
like, no, and that's okay. Like that's just part of what it is. But that's kind of what life looks like. And I thought of going not back to I'm not going to grad school. I have some friends who've gone to grad school because they want to be professors. I'm like, I think that's fine.
Mhm.
But there's the film partnership in North Carolina, and I reached out to them because I do freelance on the side. So I do like photography, videography, but I wanted to work still in film more, even if it's not writing and directing, just something in the film. And
Right.
I'm like, okay, I know we have news stations. Why can't I work for one of them? And it's like, well, I know how to use my DSLR camera. I'm very good at that, but I don't know about a studio setting. So I've looked into the film partnership in North Carolina, where it's like a week of classes, and then you spend 5 weeks working, and they pay you. I haven't like heard back from them yet to be able to ask specific questions, but once you complete your classroom training, you spend like 4 to 5 weeks working on studios or sets, and they pay you while they're training you in sound and cinematography. Because like school, I didn't get as much hands-on experience just because the pandemic. So like I had a normal freshman year and I had a somewhat normal senior year, and all the time I could have been crewing and like learning about cinematography, I just didn't. And so I I didn't shoot Sugar Brown or Sweet Pea. I could explain to the DPA, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? You think this package would be good? Okay, let's see if we can do that.
Mhm.
So I just really want to work on my technical skills so that
Mhm.
I can make more for freelance. And if I hit my income goals, maybe I can not work as much at my day job. But
Sure.
yeah, it's definitely it's rough.
Yeah, no, no, you're not, and you're not alone. I think that's what people in your position, or people thinking about getting into this position need to realize, like you're saying, that you need a day job, or you need income, and wherever you can get it, and if you can find some sort of adjacent stream that actually involves filmmaking, all the that's obviously ideal, but you have to do whatever it takes. And it sounds like you are, like, it sounds like you're not resting on your laurels at all. Like, there's activity on so many fronts, that's it's impressive. And I think it's really what people also need to kind of take away from this story, is that you have to work really hard.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I don't think I will say in film school, one of the things with film school, I think I made like a video on this not too long ago, but I think a lot of art schools, they don't really prepare students for like how hard it's going to be to profit from their art, even before everything happens with the administration and since everything that's happening right now. It's hard. Like if you don't understand how to distribute your work, you don't eat, right? And if you're going for the writer, director, anything like above the line roles, you're more of an entrepreneur because like when you're trying to get the money from all these grants, you're running a small business where you're trying to pay people and get the contracts. It's like you have to wear all these hats that in your mind has nothing to do with filmmaking, right? Like I gotta sit down and say, hey, like, can you design me a logo for my company? And like, can we get a poster? And then you gotta think about branding your film and how you reach that target audience. And then you get into business and the basis of finance and you're wearing all these hats. You're like, what? And I think that's something I want to try to do for people is to just demystify filmmaking and being like upfront, not in a way because I think some influencers are like, yeah, like you're not gonna make it and you need that. I'm not like that at all. I'm just saying, like, I'm gonna pull back the curtain and let you know that yes, you went to film school, you have your degree, and you can have one festival awards, but that a lot of times is not gonna be enough to get you signed right after you graduate. If it happens for you, great, but most cases that's not it. And so when you want to make a film, you can't just walk up to Warner Brothers and say, I have an idea. It's like,
Yeah.
no, so then you just have to put the money together and then that's where people kind of stop because they don't know where to go or how to do it. Because in film school, you're given the resources to make things, told when and how you're gonna make it. And when you graduate, that's not there at all. And you're like, you're dispersed, so you lose your community. So
Mm.
you really have to be like, okay, like, y'all kind of have no reason to help me on this project, right? But yeah, there's no grade. I can't pay you what I know you're worth, but can you just help me out? And that's
Mm.
really how things get made because it's interesting explaining it to other people who don't work in film and they'll be like, but you have this award and you did this internship. I'm like, right, I did do all those things. And they're like, oh, you have like an article. And you're like, yeah, but that's not like, I mean, that's cool. Like, I'm happy for it, but that doesn't mean that I'm signed or that I still got to go clock in to work after I get back from the festival. Like, this is just, I mean,
Yeah.
it takes a while, but yeah.
Yeah, what you were saying there, like, makes me want to reiterate how important a producer is, who understands those things that you're talking about, the financials, the distribution, especially all of those aspects that don't, maybe they're not as sexy because they're not creative, and they're not artistic, but that's the other side of the coin. It's like, this is a film business, that's what it is. It's just as much, like you're saying, entrepreneurial venture as it is a creative one. So yeah, either be a producer yourself or find a good one. You found one. Are they helpful in that?
Yes, they are. And even if I don't, I've changed like what I view and like expect a producer to do. Like I used to think of producers like the same as an agent or a manager. I'm like, oh, you find one, they just have money and you're great. Maybe if you find an executive and they're like, we're just gonna give you money, it's fine. But for me, um, the producer who's working on Sugar Brown, Miles, he's the same guy. He first of all, we're cousins. That's the first thing. We both went to UNC. He went to UNC School of the Arts grad, and I went to undergrad. And so when I asked him to come on board for things, I didn't go to him and be like, yeah, I just expect you to like just come up with the money. It's like, no, can you help me stay on track and help me make a budget breakdown? Because I just struggle with those. Like I'll say, okay, I know we have this budget, but I don't know how to break that down to like in kind and then this percentage and this percentage. So he's good at that. And then just helping me stay on track so that we can put our minds together to get the funds,
Hmm.
and then helping manage that and making sure like the crew is doing well. Like once we get to set and I'm on the set, he can be looking around being like, oh, okay, like do we have lunch, or are these things happening? And I've crewed on features like when I was in Atlanta, so I got to see just more of what producers do while they're on set,
Yeah.
and then like before production as well. But it's good to have another person to bounce ideas off of, because it's not just you. And my co-writer would help me as well. Like she would help me, but it was nice to kind of be able to shift some of that off of her and onto Miles as we just try to get the funds. But yeah,
Yeah. Tell me about working in North Carolina. What's the I know you're out of school, but like what's the scene like? Is there a hub around you?
there is a hub. It's like growing. It's there. Like I can feel it because I didn't want to move back to North Carolina originally. I had a lot of health issues happen at home, and then things happened with my roommate in Atlanta where it just didn't line up anymore. I was like, okay. And then the strikes were happening, and I'm like, all right, okay. So like let's see what's going on. But no, there's like a bunch of little hubs in North Carolina. And I feel like I've been trying to tap into it. And I would say the pro about being in North Carolina is that people are willing to hear you out a bit more. Because I would say if it's more conducive to independent filmmaking because there's really not a road laid out. Which the good part is, okay, it's not a road laid out. Bad part is like there's really no road, girl. What are you doing? Why are you doing this?
Hmm.
But I think about like of no, I can use Tyler Perry like as an example. I mean, he put Atlanta on the map. Like when he was there, it was just like why are you in Georgia doing? What are you doing? But he just kind of stayed there and said, "Well, I'm here, so I'm gonna make it work here." And that's just
Hmm.
sort of how I've been. It's like, well, I had to move back for reasons I didn't choose, but now I'm here, and there is community here in the Carolinas, and I'm trying to connect like North Carolina, South Carolina,
Yeah.
Georgia. I don't know that much about Alabama. I do know Texas and Austin. I've been to the Austin Film Festival, and just seeing what the Southeast film culture is like and what it has to offer. And it is very community based. Whereas my friends in LA, and I visit LA, I try to visit once a year. It doesn't really have to do with talent. Like different disparities. It's just they're going to struggle more to get even a short film off the ground because everybody there is applying for the same grants and fellowships. And you've got people who are kids of already established producers applying for the same job you're doing while you're also working a full time job as a barista. And then you're competing for jobs to keep yourself afloat with other writers, producers, and actors, not for the creative jobs, because y'all all need to work at the same coffee shop to get things going. And it's like, it's so hard to survive in LA that they can't find as much time to create as they'd like to. And this is through my conversations with them, with friends from that I've kept in contact with from film school, and the new friends that I've met. But even like there, I think people have burnout. Like people try to pitch things to investors and like, oh, we've heard it, like we're tired of hearing this, like everyone wants to make a film, blah blah blah. But you do it in North Carolina, and they're like, sure. And you don't have to compete with like Marvel. Like you can say, I want to shoot here, and they're gonna be like, well, no, that's already booked by Paramount. It's like, oh, like you don't have that happen here. I think the only hurdle really is just getting people to understand what you're asking of them. Like when I shot Sweet Pea in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the house we used, I was explaining to the woman that we were going to use her house as a location, that we were going to put her in a hotel for a night. And she's like, well, why? I'm like, well, because we would take over most of the house. And she's like, well, you're just shooting something. Because she's thinking of like me, a small camera, maybe a
Yeah.
person holding sound, and then like two actors. And I'm like, no, 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 like we're bringing in like walkie talkies. Like when I said walkie talkies, she kind of got the picture of, oh, like you're trying to like make an actual film set. I'm like, yes, like that's what we're trying to do. But people will work with you, they can barter with you. Like if you want to use the land in exchange, you have to farm sit. You okay, like watch the cat do something else while you are shooting the film or offer
Yeah.
help afterwards. But people are just more willing to hear you out. And North Carolina has a lot. Like we have mountains, we have the Piedmont, we have the beach. So, I would like to, and it's conducive to indie filmmaking because I think when you talk about like just real indie filmmaking, you pick up a camera and you just shoot something. LA and New York isn't conducive to that because I've had filmmakers both from LA and who live in New York or student filmmakers who are like, hey, I don't know how they find me. I mean, it's not like I'm like a private person, but I've gotten messages. And they're like, "Hey, we heard you make films in North Carolina. We were thinking of shooting our student film in North Carolina. Like, is that something we could do?" I'm like, "Yeah. Like, which city were you thinking? Like, you could do Charlotte, you could do Greensboro. The only thing is like, where are you gonna get your rentals from? So
Yeah.
that part can be hard.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah. I think people who don't know, if they don't live in LA or New York, they think they're just somewhere, and they think that that's not where they need to be, and that they can't do what they want to do there. But I think what you're illustrating is very important. Like there are always people, no matter where you are, with that common interest. There's seems like it's interesting. There's different problems, right? Like in LA, everyone knows what filming is all about, and you don't have to explain it to them. But it's competitive, or you have to pay for like really expensive permits or something. But there you can have this house, but you have to explain to the people like what's happening. And that I think it's interesting, like when you're paying attention to like what's happening in Hollywood, like there's kind of a little bit of an exodus from LA. Anyways, people are going elsewhere. There's a big push in Texas right now to bring production there. And Gavin Newsom just did a huge, I don't know if it's just a commitment or if it's actual, I think it's a bill that has to get passed to be more competitive with tax breaks and things. Because yeah, people are like, yeah, we don't have to be here. We can be anywhere. But that's great. And that's great that you've been able to uh, make it work for yourself. Find the resources and the opportunities where you are rather than feel like you're uh, at a disadvantage just because you're not in one of the major places. Let's see. So the next project, then the next step is to do a feature of Sugar Brown, right? That's the goal.
that's the goal. There might be another project before then, though.
Okay.
Whenever I look at grants, I've noticed there's a lot of short film grants and things with short films. Like if I get one of those short film grants, I'm done. Like I don't have to crowdfund, or I do want to practice crowdfunding because I know I'm gonna have to crowdfund a bit for Sugar Brown. So I thought, okay, what if I get a short film grant? Because Sweet Pea, we got a grant for $15,000. It cost 18,000. I ate that, and the producer just ate that because they're like, well, okay, $3,000 over. But credit card just had to, yeah. It wasn't great. It wasn't like, oh, like 2,000, no big deal. I was like, oh, yeah, that, oops.
Yeah.
But we're gonna be in a hole before we put the crew in a hole because this, our shenanigans. But I always have a bunch of ideas. It's just deciding which ones I want to go with. But I recently put out a request looking for a producer for another short film called They Bleed Blue. Probably about 12 pages would be shot in North Carolina. And it'd be like an LGBT coming of age film, but there'd be a twist to it because it's in a town where like some people bleed blue, and that's seen as immoral in a place where people are only supposed to bleed red. And so it's this girl trying to find people who are like her who also bleed blue in a place where that's not accepted. Um, because I just like to make film. I like to make things, and I feel like I, I just want to be the best I could be. And so if that means I direct another short film, fine. But I'm also in the process of trying to distribute the shorts I've already made because that is going to help me so much more when me and the producers so much more when I'm trying to find money for the feature so we can say, hey, here's what the short film did, and this is how much it brought in. This is what the feature could do if
Mhm,
we leverage everything.
mhm.
But yeah, I just like to make films, and I just sometimes I feel like I get rusty. Like if I haven't been on a set in a while, and I'm like, dang. I mean, I still make short little videos, but it's been a while since I've really been on a set and going through it with actors, and so it can be kind of daunting to get back into it. So I try not to have too much of a lull period.
Yeah, that's
So
smart. Yeah, that's really smart. I mean, keeping busy while you're waiting for the bigger project to take shape, to tackle some smaller stuff, to stay loose, to flex other muscles, to practice. Very very smart. Um, and yeah, I just remembered I want to go back to your idea about kind of creating a social media presence or following behind it because I think it's really important these days because as we're seeing star power or just for one example an actor's star power is now not now based on like social media stats, like how many followers do they have and how many that's the new metric for popularity or whatnot. So how is that going and what are some of the challenges maybe that's brought?
it brings challenges because originally I was not pressed about that. Like I'm like I don't like why do I have I just want to make movies. Like dang, like why do I have to do this? But then when you realize, okay, you don't have representation, you have to advocate for yourself, you have to engage an audience, and so it's if people like you and your content, then you can leverage that and they will go check out your work. And then when you look for investors, they can see, oh, you engage. I have a personal TikTok account that has 22,000, which is something. And so I said, okay, let me try to do the same thing with Cinema Sense and just build that up. So it's going. It's better than it was when I started, which is all I can really ask for.
Hmm.
That I used to have 0 followers. Now I have 130, I think 130,
Hmm.
and I don't buy any followers. So those are all real people that said, "Okay, yeah, let me let me see what you're up to." But it's hard because I it's just one of those things where you're thinking, well, this doesn't have to do with the film I'm trying to make, but like it's part of the process
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
part of the foundation that you now have to care about because this isn't something that like, my film professors like when I was there, it's changed a bit, but like all of them were older white guys who broke through in the 80s. And that was like if you wanted to reach an audience, you had to. No agent was going to say, "Why don't you have a following?" Because there wasn't social media, so you would have had an interview with a professional journalist to have your ideas out there. But now that social media has democratized everything, the good news is that anyone can have a platform and create something. The bad news is that anyone can have a platform and create something, and so you have to figure out why are they going to tune into you, and why are they going to watch your movie when people don't even like to watch movies anymore, and when people are concerned that the theater is dying. I'm thinking of like Sean Baker's Oscar speech, but he's right. He's like we have to support independent theaters, and so it's um it's going, but it's a lot of trial and error. Like sometimes I post videos and they flop. Okay, that's fine. I'll post another one or repost it and see how it does.
Well, Clark, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for taking the time for sharing all of your great insights and your experience because I think we can learn a lot from you. And I'm really excited for you. I really hope your campaign to get Sugar Brown made comes across. I hope this little interview helps in any way in that direction. But yeah, thank you so much. Everybody watching again, those movies will be linked in the description. I highly recommend you check those out. So, Clark, anyways, have a great night. and stay in touch.
Yeah, no, thanks so much. See you, Brett.
All right, bye.